I shouldn't be telling you this, I really shouldn't. But every time I close my eyes, I see that purple glow seeping through the cracks, and I hear that sound, like glass breaking in reverse, like screaming played backwards. 3 weeks ago, I was just another urban explorer with a camera and too much curiosity. Now I can't sleep without the lights on, and I jump every time my phone buzzes with that same notification tone. It started with a Reddit post on r/Seattle that everyone's probably seen by now. Someone posted a blurry photo of what looked like violet light bleeding through a boarded-up entrance near Pioneer Square. The caption was simple: "Anyone know what this is?" Started glowing 3 days ago. The comments exploded. Hundreds of people claiming they'd seen the same light, felt the same weird pull toward that specific spot. Most dismissed it as another hoax, but I live 6 blocks from there. I had to see for myself. If you're from Seattle, you know exactly where I'm talking about. That little alley between Occidental and First Avenue, the one tourists always miss but locals use as a shortcut. The entrance has been sealed since 2019 after some structural damage, but somehow this purple glow was emanating from behind the plywood boards. And here's the thing, I should mention this now before I go any further. If this resonates with you, if any of this sounds familiar, please hit that like button and subscribe. I need to know I'm not losing my mind here. I need to know someone else has experienced what I'm about to tell you. The first night I went, I brought my usual gear: headlamp, backup batteries, phone with full charge. The glow was real, no question. It pulsed every 17 seconds. I timed it, like some massive heart beating beneath the city. The weird part wasn't the light itself, though. It was how it made me feel. You know that sensation when you're falling asleep and suddenly jolt awake? That falling feeling? It was exactly like that, but constant, like gravity was pulling me in the wrong direction. I found a loose board on the side where someone had pried it back enough to squeeze through. The moment I stepped into that space, my phone started acting up. The flashlight would flicker randomly, and I kept getting notifications for messages that weren't there. But I could see the source of the light now, a section of the old sidewalk that had partially collapsed, revealing what looked like a room nobody had seen in over a century. The Seattle Underground is full of weird spaces, remnants from when they raised the street level back in the 1900s. But this felt different. This felt intentional. The walls were lined with what looked like mirrors, but they reflected that same violet light instead of my image. And the sound, God, that sound, like someone was playing a recording of voices, but the tape was running backward. I should have left then. Every instinct screamed at me to get out, but you know how it is when you're exploring. You tell yourself it's just another abandoned room, just another historical curiosity. You don't want to admit that something is genuinely wrong, because admitting that means admitting you're in real danger. I spent maybe 10 minutes down there that first night, just documenting everything with my phone. The footage looked normal on my screen, but when I watched it back at home, there were these gaps, seconds where the image would just freeze while the audio continued. And in those frozen moments, if you looked closely at the reflection in those mirror things, you could see shapes moving behind me. Shapes that definitely weren't there when I was filming. Have you ever had something happen to you that was so weird, so impossible, that you convinced yourself you imagined it? That's what I did for 3 days. I told myself the mirrors were just old glass with chemical stains, that the gaps in the footage were just phone glitches, that the sound was probably just water pipes or settling foundations. But then the dreams started. Every night, the same dream. I'm back in that room, but now I can understand what the backward voices are saying. They're reading names, long lists of names over and over, and I recognize some of them. People who disappeared from Seattle over the past 50 years. People whose missing person cases went cold. And at the end of each list, they say my name. They say it like they're adding it to the collection. On the 4th night, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to go back. I had to prove to myself that it was just my imagination running wild. This time, I brought my girlfriend Sarah with me, figuring that if I was losing my mind, at least I'd have a witness. Sarah didn't want to go. She said something about the whole situation felt cursed, which made us both laugh because Sarah's not superstitious at all. She's a programmer, logical to a fault. But she came anyway, mostly, I think, because she was worried about my mental state. The purple glow was brighter that night, and it wasn't just pulsing anymore. It was almost breathing, getting brighter and dimmer in this organic rhythm. When we squeezed through the boards, Sarah immediately grabbed my arm. She felt it too, that wrongness, that sense of falling while standing still. But here's where everything went sideways. When we got down into that mirror room, Sarah wasn't seeing what I was seeing. She saw an empty underground space with some water damage and weird mineral deposits on the walls. No mirrors, no purple light, just a regular abandoned room that smelled like mildew and rust. For her, my phone's flashlight was working fine. For me, it was still flickering and showing those phantom notifications. We were standing in the same space, but experiencing completely different realities. That's when I realized this wasn't about the room at all. It was about me. Something in that space had chosen me specifically. "There's nothing here," Sarah kept saying. "It's just an old basement. Can we please go home?" But I could see her in the mirrors now, reflected dozens of times, and in each reflection she looked more and more concerned, more and more like she was seeing something that terrified her. Even though the Sarah standing next to me seemed completely calm, I started taking pictures frantically, trying to capture what I was seeing so I could prove it to her later. But every photo came out differently. Sometimes the mirrors were there, sometimes they weren't. Sometimes the purple light filled the frame, sometimes it was just darkness. And in some of the photos there were people in the reflections. People who definitely weren't in the room with us. That's when Sarah started crying. Not the Sarah next to me, but all the Sarahs in the mirrors. Dozens of versions of her, all weeping silently, all pointing at something behind me. I spun around, but there was nothing there except the entrance we'd come through. "We need to leave," she said, and this time, both versions of her, the real one and the reflected ones, were saying it in unison. "We need to leave right now." As we climbed back up to street level, I looked back one more time. The purple glow was gone. The room was just a regular abandoned space filled with debris and shadows. But on my phone, I had 17 missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize, all received while we were underground, even though my phone had shown no signal the entire time. When I played back the voicemails later, they were all the same thing, that backward voice sound, but when I ran it through audio software to reverse it, they were all saying the same phrase: "Room 7, room 7, room 7. I started researching the history of that specific location, digging through city archives and old newspaper reports. What I found made everything so much worse. In 1923, there was a boarding house on that exact spot. The basement had been divided into small rooms for transient workers. One night, 7 people disappeared from room 7. No signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play, no trace of where they went. The case was never solved, but here's the detail that made my blood run cold. According to the police report, witnesses heard voices coming from room 7 for 3 days after the disappearances. Voices speaking in what they described as reverse language, like someone playing a phonograph backward. The boarding house was demolished in 1924. When they raised the street level, they just built over the foundation, sealing those basement rooms permanently. Until now. Have you ever experienced something like this, something that felt like it was specifically meant for you, like you were chosen? Because I keep thinking about all those Reddit comments, all those people who said they felt drawn to that purple light. What if we're all experiencing the same thing? What if that room is still collecting people one at a time, and we're all just documenting our own disappearances? I haven't been back to that alley since the night with Sarah, but I know it's still there, waiting. The purple glow shows up in my peripheral vision sometimes, especially late at night when I'm alone. And my phone keeps getting those phantom notifications, messages from numbers that don't exist, all saying the same thing. Room 7 is waiting. The worst part is, I want to go back. Despite everything, despite the terror and the wrongness and the complete logical impossibility of it all, part of me is desperate to return to that mirror room. It's like an addiction, this need to understand what's happening to me. And I think that's exactly what it wants me to feel. If you live in Seattle, if you've seen that purple glow, If you felt that falling sensation near Pioneer Square, please don't go looking for it. Please don't do what I did. But if you do, if you can't help yourself, then document everything. Take pictures, record video, leave a trail. Because I think the only way we're going to figure this out is together. Last night I had the dream again, but this time when they read the list of names, mine wasn't at the end anymore. It was in the middle, and they were adding new names after it. Names I recognized from the comments section of that original Reddit post. I'm documenting all of this because I think we're running out of time. If you made it through this story, hit like and subscribe. Not for me, but so others can find this warning before it's too late.